And welcome to Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Nick Geber, in for Chelsea Messenger. Happy Tuesday, November the 5th, Guy Fawkes Day. If you're in the UK, you're having a bonfire, lighting some fireworks, and having a great time, celebrating the failed gunpowder plot of one Guy Fawkes back in Chip Chirimbus's day. But we welcome you to the show here. You can find us streaming live also on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Search for us. You can find us at hashtag Parlay Radio, or just put in Picks and Parlays. And by the way, if you want to comment during the show, feel free to do so. Just go ahead and fill in that comment section on any of those sites, and we will see your comment and put it up on the screen and discuss it, bring it up, talk about it, mention you in this public forum, provided it's not too rude. Notice I said too rude. We got a big show for you today. We're going to be joined in the first segment for a little NBA and college basketball by none other than Tony Brown, the capper formerly known as Bandwagon. Now we'll refer to him just by a symbol, but Tony Brown will be joining me in the first segment. Then we will have, that's right, Tony Tellez will be joining me to talk a little, well, I believe that's college football, including a bunch of unbeaten teams and a bunch of teams that have had a bye week. Well, this should be a great one with El Tigre. And lastly, the Duff man cometh, never fear. Joe Duffy will join us to talk NFL, Chargers at Raiders, Lions at Bears, and Bills at Browns. Should I put some of the other games out? Nah, you got to stay tuned in to figure out what they are. By the way, we're going to give a lot of free picks on this show. If you have a pen and paper handy, if you're listening, if you're driving, forget it, okay? Just go back to YouTube and you can see the replay. Do not write down anything while you're driving. But if you're not, get a pen and paper. We're going to have a lot of free picks. Plus, at the end of the show, we'll recap everything. But if that's not enough for you, you can go to our website, picksandparlays.net, where we have free picks galore for everybody. And you can even kick it up a notch and get our expert picks should you so decide. Right now, we have a special going on. It's $4.99 college basketball special all the way through the end of the season. Give yourself that betting edge at picksandparlays.net. All right, so we got Tony Brown, El Tigre, Duffman. That's who's going to be on the show, along with me, your host, Nick Geber. Find me on Twitter at Nick Geber. I am going to step aside, take a break, and I'll be right back with the capper, formerly known as Bandwagon.
from back, neck, knee, and wrist pain, you may qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you, but the deadline is fast approaching. Simply call the Health Alert Hotline now.
You heard right. You may qualify for a pain-relieving back, neck, knee, or wrist brace. These items may even be covered by Medicare or your private insurance. The Health Alert Hotline is your brace company. These specialized braces have been tested for pain relief. Call us toll-free right now to determine your eligibility and to learn how to use your private insurance or Medicare to minimize your out-of-pocket cost. Don't wait. If the deadline passes, you may lose your opportunity to get a pain-relieving back, neck, knee, or wrist brace at little or no cost to you.
800-430-9571. 800-430-9571.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back to Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, streaming live as well on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Schmitter, Schmatter, Smutter, everywhere you want to be online is where we are with you. By the way, also streaming live on iHeartRadio and TuneIn and broadcasting to the American Forces Network. So we'd like to welcome all of our men and women in uniform around the world listening to this show. We do love having you, and we're with you each and every weeknight, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. on the left coast. That's Monday through Friday. We have all your betting picks and needs covered. Think of us as the betting doctor, and the doctor is in. All right, well, let's get to it, shall we? Because I promised you would have some NBA and a little bit of college basketball, which tips off tonight. Joining me here in studio is special guest, expert handicapper, the capper, formerly known as Bandwagon. I think we'll give him a symbol at some point. But in the meantime, we'll just welcome Tony Brown. Tony, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Welcome. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me again.
All right, Tony, good to have you. Let's get to it, shall we?
Let's do it.
You don't have a microphone, my man.
I'm not mic'd up, but I think they can hear me.
No, you're not, but we can take care of that very simply here.
All right.
We'll give you one because, you know, we're that generous sort of people here.
I didn't want to ask.
There we go. Well, you know, ask and ye shall receive. Isn't that right? Isn't that how it works? All right. Well, speaking of asking and receiving, let's start with Bucks and Clippers. The Bucks are 5-2. They're 5-2 against the spread. Currently on a 3-game winning streak, getting a 134-106 win at Minnesota on Monday. The Bucks are 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 games, but 4-11 straight up against the Clippers. So that's interesting. The Clippers 5-2, 4-3 against the spread. Clippers' most recent game was a 105-94 win over the Jazz. The total has gone under in 4 of the Clips' last 5 games. We have Clippers minus 1.5. What do you have?
I love the Clippers minus 1.5. I don't know if I have a West Coast bias just because I live out here, but I just think that the Western Conference is a much more advanced conference than the East. And just in the 7 games that Milwaukee have played already, it seems like that Ilgauskas itself. The Clippers are undefeated at the Staples Center. It's home field advantage for a reason, and they've been taking advantage of it. I like the Clippers to eke this one out. It's just a 1.5 point spread, so we're going to take them against the spread, and I think they get a big win at home. Just basically, they have more depth. Milwaukee's good. They lead the league in scoring and rebounding, so when they do miss shots, they get them back, but it's against the East Coast. Playing against these West Coast teams, I think it's going to show, and the Clippers win at home in this one.
All right, so you're going to know the Clippers win. Clippers, it's minus 1.5, right?
Just minus 1.5.
Minus
when
1.5.
you're gonna get it by a bucket.
All right, okay, you got it. Let's move along, shall we? Sixers at Jazz. The Sixers are 5-1, 3-2-1 against the spread. They're sitting second in the East, right behind the Heat. Their loss to Phoenix on Monday snapped a 5-game winning streak. Man, they were on an absolute tear. The total has gone under in 11 of the Sixers' last 15 games. On the other side, the Jazz are 4-3, 2-5 against the spread. The Jazz are suffering through a 2-game losing streak right now. They lost to the Kings and to the Clippers. Speaking of the Clippers, total has gone under in all 10 of the last Jazz's 10 games. That's a pretty reliable percentage, I would say. I have the Sixers plus 2.5 on this one. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the perfect line right there. And I'm taking the Sixers plus 2.5 for my clients. But me personally, I'm going with them on the money line. I think they win straight out. Like you said, they were on a 5-game winning streak. Embiid got suspended with the little fight he had out there. And so They got beat by a good Phoenix Suns team that put up a lot of points on them. It was a close loss, and it was the only loss of the season. Embiid makes his return in this one, and they beat the Jazz. Jazz is just a middle-of-the-road team. They're 4-3, so they're up, they're down, and they're currently on a 2-game losing streak. Like you said, these games aren't played on paper, but some stats can't be denied. 10 straight unders. You might want to look at the under in this one as well, but my biggest play is on Philly on the money line personally. But for the clients, whenever you can get some points, you always got to take the points for insurance. Grab the 2.5.
Well, what is the money line for Philly right now?
I think it'll be like plus 140 with just 2.5 points. So that's
that's nice,
yeah,
huh?
That's some nice money.
Nice plus money there.
Yes, sir.
Plus money is always good to have.
Plus money, Tony. That's me.
Right. Particularly on a Tuesday, November the 5th, Guy Fawkes Day. Are you celebrating? Bonfire, fireworks?
Not this Guy Fawkes Day, but next year I think we're going to do a big.
Oh, you're going to do it big next year. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. All right, speaking about doing it big, college basketball season tips off today. We're all terrifically excited. This is a great day if you're a basketball fan because the slates are clear everywhere, okay? Everybody's even right now in college basketball.
Everybody's
the upsets
undefeated.
can happen, which is why we really love college basketball. Well, let's start, though, formerly known as Bandwagon, with Cincinnati at Ohio State. This is a season opener, obviously, for both schools. Ohio State leads the all-time series meetings 3-2. The last meeting was last season when Ohio State won 64-56. Ohio State has a deep team, lots of returning talent. That's obviously big. Cincinnati, though, has a brand new head coach, John Brannon from Northern Kentucky.
Right. Horizon League guy.
Horizon League,
Right.
Northern Kentucky.
Right.
These are places you might see if you're pulling a trailer through America, but I'm unlikely to go there. Ohio State -6 is the line. What do you make of this? How do you bet this game, right? Because it's so hard. New coach, lots of guys returning for Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State basically edges them on meetings. Not that really matters, I guess. But, how do you bet this one?
Well, it's the opening, so like you said, everyone's undefeated. It's not a really lot of stats to go on, but what you can go on is what you said. Cincinnati has a new coach, and he's coming from Northern Kentucky. This is like a giant step up to the Big Ten. You know what I mean? This is where the big boys play, and he's going on the road to Ohio State, a ranked Ohio State team. They're ranked at 18, so they're going to stay in the top 25. They have to play hard. They can't lose the opener tonight, and lots of returning starters. They went to Cincinnati and won by 8 points last season. So with the returning starters, the new coach for Cincinnati, you just got to go with Ohio State in this one. It's only 6 points. That's a couple baskets. It's going to have the home crowd opening night. I like Cincinnati to get the win and cover at home.
You got any money line on this one?
Nah, the money line's too high. There's
It's
no
going to
value
be bad,
in the money
right?
line.
Yeah, it's going to be what? Like
Unless you're taking the upset with
it's going to be
Cincinnati,
like what?
right?
At
least
it's going to
300,
be
something like that.
minus 300.
Right. Yeah. So
for
no money
Ohio.
lines. We're
But
gonna take the
maybe
points.
a little punt on Cincinnati.
In-state rivalry
'Cause
game, anything can happen.
Because they got to be. I mean, that's got to be. If the other one's like minus 300, they got to be. On the other side of that, right? So get some nice, sweet plus money there with the big upset. By the way, speaking of upsets, if you followed my Champions League picks,
Man.
I am right on the
Man.
cusp of a massive upset. And if you're betting my picks, my Nigerian friends listening, by the way, and I know they're thrilled. They're probably out buying themselves a new building.
Money is money. I mean,
don't know.
if you don't watch soccer, you don't have to. Just listen to this man's picks, and the money is there.
Right. All right. Any other? We got opening tip-off tonight in college basketball. Of course, we've got the big boys kicking it all off in Madison Square Gardens. What are your thoughts about those two games?
Like I said, when it's the early season, all you have is preseason rankings. You got the coaches polls, a lot of writers and stuff. I can't wait to see these kids get it on. A lot of these kids went to high school together, and a lot of these kids got drafted to these big programs not because of their talent necessarily, but just insider information.
Wait. Because of the bribes their parents gave the coaches? Oh, I'm
You
sorry.
said it.
We
You
were
said
talking
it.
about
Right,
USC.
okay, right.
I'm sorry,
You
that's
said it.
USC, where apparently a 5'3" dwarf was drafted as their center for the USC team. But
Now
their
we're
parents donated a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
So, right. You can never go off paper. So, it's good to just see these teams get it on. We got number 1 versus number 2 on paper. So, we'll see who's the best in college starting tonight.
All right, what's your, you are a guy, you live and you breathe and you bathe in basketball.
I love it.
Yeah, you do love it. We have yet to play 1 minute of college basketball, and we have 1 minute left.
Right.
Give me your pick to win the championship this year. Come on, you can do it.
I like Duke.
You like Duke.
And it's
Blue
simply
Devils,
because
okay?
of this. It's coaching. In the NBA, it's all about the players and the superstars. And in college, it's all about coaching. And Coach K is one of the best. He's got some of the top recruits in the country. And the Duke always puts out a good product. I like Duke to win it.
All right. Coach K and Duke going to win it all this season. And I wonder what these what the early futures are for it. You can still get futures bets because we haven't tipped yet, right?
As early as tonight, they haven't tipped yet.
So maybe you should listen to the Capper, formerly known as Bandwagon, but we like to call him Tony Brown now. We will come up with a new name for him, though. Don't worry about that.
Soon.
All right, I'm going to step aside and take a break. When I come back, we're going to be talking to LT Gray himself, Tony Tellez. We're going to do some college football, including some whopping great matchups. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. All right, welcome you back to the show, Picks and Parlays, here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, also streaming live on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or everywhere you want to be if you want to comment on the show. Please do that on this happy Guy Fawkes Day, November the 5th. I know everyone's listening to this saying, what is this idiot yabbering on about? But never mind. I promised we were going to get to some college football with LT Gray. And so I am pleased to welcome to the show our good friend, expert capper. By the way, you can find him at picksandparlays.net, just like you can everybody else. The man himself, LT Gray, Tony Tellez. Tony, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm doing great, Nick. Looking forward to this big Saturday of college football. Winding it down, big Saturdays left in November. And, of course, once we get to the end of the month, we'll be looking at division champions from these conferences, and it'll whittle down the schedule to the conference title games in the first Saturday of December. But, Nick, this is the time of the year right now in college football where we have all the big matchups. Teams are trying to position themselves for that playoff, and that's the most exciting time of the year in college football.
It is indeed. It is indeed. We need to get some volume on you, though, and we need to get your mic turned on for Tony. There we go. We have you now, Tony?
I'm here.
Okay, now I can hear you. I'm going to bring him down a little bit. Okay, sorry. We're just we're kind of working this as we go along here. All right, Tony, let's get to it, shall we? Penn State at Minnesota. You know, what we have today is, for our college football coming up this week, is an unbelievable collection of 8-0 teams. Starting with Penn State, Minnesota. Penn State 8-0, 5-3 against the spread. All of these teams are coming off a bye week, which is another thing that's a little strange to me, but maybe you can explain that. But they had a bye week. They defeated Michigan State 28-7. They're against Minnesota 8-0. They're 5-2-1 against the spread. Another bye week, another undefeated team whose last game was a big victory, this time 52-10 over Maryland. The under is cashed in each of Penn State's last 4 on the road, and the under is cashed in 5 of Minnesota's last 7. I have Penn State -7, total 48.5. What have you, LT Gray?
Yeah, Nick. The bye weeks, these teams can they make their own schedules, and it makes sense right in the middle of conference season to take the bye week. So you got half the remaining games to go in your conference, and it'll be the toughest stretch for many of these teams because they usually play their rivals at the end. And I like taking the points here with Minnesota at +7. Of course, Penn State will face their toughest offensive opponent on the road here in this spot. But when you look at the current form here, past 3 games, Golden Gophers moving the football, 463 yards, 280 on the ground, over 5.5 yards to carry. And, of course, they're defending home teams at 232 yards, only 47% completion rate. And, of course, we looked at some results. Did pound Nebraska at home 34-7. Penn State's toughest test on the road resulted in a 17-12 win at Iowa. They only were able to put 17 on Iowa here, and we're getting a full touchdown here with the Golden Gophers. I like their quarterback, Tanner Morgan, 64% completion rate, 12 touchdowns, 2 picks in the Big Ten. So I'll be taking the home underdog in this one. Great.
Going to take the home underdog. You're going to take Minnesota, 13th ranked Minnesota over 5th place Penn State. Nice. Okay. What's the money line on Minnesota? Is that a money line play on this?
This will just be the spread on this one. Probably money line will be closer. I would probably say a home team at 7. You're probably looking closer to $2. But I would just look here at the spread in this one.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Let's do that one. Excellent. Let's move along. I'll tell you what, let's go to Iowa or Wisconsin next. We'll leave the LSU-Alabama game till last. Let's start with this one. This is another one where both teams are off bye weeks. I guess everyone's had a lot of rest, Tony. I don't know. They've had a chance now that the NCAA is changing their rules. They've had a chance to go, maybe find some people to represent them for their commercial rights during the bye week so that they can hit the ground running, although I don't believe the NCAA has actually written those rules yet. It'll probably take them 50 years to do that. You know how it works. But in the meantime, we're back to Iowa or Wisconsin because I digress, which I do so well. Iowa 6-2, 3-5 against the spread. As we said, it was a bye week as well for the Hawkeyes after a 20-0 win over Northwestern. Quarterback Nate Stanley has 1,950 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, but he does have 5 interceptions, which is, about 1 interception for every 2 touchdowns. So I'm not sure that that's such a great ratio. The Badgers, on the other hand, 6-2, 5-3 against the spread. They're also coming off the bye week. I know it's kind of an old story. But they did lose 38-7 to Ohio State. By the way, of all these teams coming off a bye week, these are the only ones that actually lost last time out. But the Badgers defense couldn't stop the Buckeyes running game. And, well, not the Buckeyes, pardon me. They couldn't stop the running game. What do you think about this one, Tony? I mean, I think the Badgers are the favorites here, right?
Yeah, they are big favorites here, 9.5. Currently, it's a very low total, 38.5, which tells you it should be one of those defensive grinder games. I just think it's a little too many points here to lay with Wisconsin. I'm going to take the points here with Iowa plus 9.5. Hawkeyes, past 3 games, defensively holding teams at 285 yards, and they are stopping the run, 2.6 yards per attempt. We did see the Badgers lose 2 straight That 1 point defeat at Illinois, then a 38-7 loss at Ohio State. Ohio State's on another island, much better than both of these teams. But one thing to note here with Wisconsin, just 2-3 to the spread against the Big Ten. Now, Iowa's covered 6 of 8 overall. Now, with the Hawkeyes' good run defense, it's going to expose Jack Doan, the quarterback for Wisconsin, who's thrown for 180 yards or fewer in 5 of his past 6 games. Always seems to be the story for Wisconsin. Stack the line, stop the running back, and force the quarterback to beat you. But, this quarterback's only completing 50% of his passes in 6 of his 8 games. And of course, Iowa, as you mentioned, Nathan Stanley, the senior at quarterback. Over his past 2 seasons before this year, he's thrown for 26 touchdowns, and I think he's the steadier hand here at quarterback. I like the points here with Iowa.
All right, you like the points with Iowa. Okay, you'll go for the Hawkeyes. So let's move along. Next one, LSU at Alabama, number 1 against number 2. It's getting a bit old, actually, year in and year out, I have to be fair. But having said that, this is a huge game. Each of these teams unbeaten, 8-0. LSU are 8-0, 5-2-1 against the spread. They're coming off a bye week after defeating Auburn 23-20. Alabama, well, I don't need to mention the bye week, but they had one. The big win over the Razorbacks, 48-7. Will Tua play because he's been injured a little bit? On the other hand, is it an issue really? Because Mac Jones did such an incredible job for them last week. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm looking at this game. Mac Jones just doesn't have the downfield skill level of Tua throwing the football deep. I think that's the difference between the 2 quarterbacks, as well as experience in a game like of this magnitude here. I think what's really telling you is the total. The total's at 65, which is telling you that, they believe that LSU could move this football. And I'm going to take the points here with LSU plus 6. And really like to look at this Tigers offense. Over their past 3 games, they're averaging 477 yards, 5.2 yards on the ground. Now, Joe Burrow, the LSU quarterback in that span, 313 yards passing, a 77% completion rate. Now, look at the teams he went against in the past 3. Auburn, Mississippi State, and Florida. Now, Mississippi State a little down team, but Auburn and Florida's defense, they're pretty good. And he was able to put up those numbers. And, of course, they've won and covered each of their road games this year. We did talk about Tua as a game-time decision with that ankle. They're only 2-3 into the spread against the SEC. But one thing to note here with Alabama is the 2 best quarterbacks they faced was South Carolina and Texas A&M. They allowed 324 yards passing to the Gamecocks, 264 yards to the Aggies. And we saw when they faced Clemson what a good offense can do to this Alabama team. So I'm going to go with the underdog here, LSU plus the 6.
Oh, that's pretty interesting. The under was cashed in 4 of the Tide's last 5 against LSU. So there's obviously, a lot more going on here than meets the eye. 65 points.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing a lot of scoring here. Either way, 65 points. And this should be a great game from a neutral standpoint as well, if you just want to watch it. But tell me, I mean, how much do you expect this line to shift when or if they announce if Tua is playing or not?
Yeah, I think it will definitely shift. I think you may see Alabama at a touchdown if Tua plays. Maybe even more than that. Just because if you look at his downfield accuracy, a little better than Mac Jones, and I think for that reason, and the experience factor, and of course Jones has not played this type of opponent in a game of this magnitude, so there's still a question mark there. Alabama is just so much better than the teams they faced. It's not so much. There isn't a whole lot of parity in college football, especially when with the elite teams. They're not going to play these opponents aren't going to be of this caliber of LSU. So there's still some question marks with Jones with his ability in this type of environment. But again, Tua will be a game time decision. So maybe a lot of the guys that like to play in-game wagering, they'll probably have a shot here to play this game. I think that might be a way to look at it, and just see if you can get any early news from some of the reporters who are covering the game. Maybe the warm-ups will be telling to see how that ankle is for Tua during warm-ups.
Yeah, I'm just so in-game betting would be great for this one because, and you just wonder. I mean, are they going to put Tua in? Is he ready? Is he not ready? Are they going to think that Mac Jones can get it done? I mean, it is a fascinating, finely poised game here between the number 1 and the number 2 teams in the country at this point, and it's going to be great to see it happening. All right, Tony, we thank you as always. Tell us a little bit about your picks that we can find at picksandparlays.net.
Yeah, you can check out picksandparlays.net. I've got an NBA and a college basketball game on today, and I'll have a nice college football card for you for this weekend over at picksandparlays.net.
All right, so there you have Tony T, El Tigre, Tony Tellez, one of our excellent handicappers you can find on our site. We have like 35 plus handicappers. We like to bring the best of them to you on this show. They will give you loads of free picks. As you just heard, we gave you 3. We gave you LSU at Alabama. We gave you Penn State at Minnesota. We gave you Iowa, Wisconsin. Free, scot-free. Let you go and make a little dosh. But when you're ready, you can kick it up a notch with our expert plays on the website, picksandparlays.net. When the show's over, you need to go over there, sign up, get yourself some expert plays. Trust me, you will not regret it. All right, we're streaming live on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, also live on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, live on iHeart, live on TuneIn. This is where we are each and every weekday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. on the left coast. Going to take a break. I'll be back. The Duff Man cometh. Never fear. We've got loads more for you after the break. All right, welcome you back to Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm your host, Nick Geber, in for Chelsea Messenger. Find me on Twitter. I am at Nick Geber, to make it easy for you. Very simple, at Nick Geber. Follow me. Actually, I've been getting quite a lot of follows, people that want my patented soccer picks, and I'm just going to check on the score right now, but I have a big one out there, and looked like it was paying off. By the way, the Duff Man cometh, promised you that, and I see him in the box right now. And Joe Duffy, welcome to the show. Let's talk a little NFL. Are you ready?
I am ready, jolly old Saint Nick. And if my mic is too low, just open the window. I got a big mouth.
Yeah, exactly. No, your mic is not too low. Your mic is perfectly placed today. Let's start, shall we? Because we've got 3 matches that we've curated for our listeners and viewers' pleasure and their betting goodness, I suppose. Luck, skill, knowledge, because that's what it takes. Should we start with the Chargers at the Oakland Raiders? The Chargers 4-5, 3-5, and 3-5-1 against the spread. It's only been a week since the Chargers fired Ken Wisenhunt, their offensive coordinator, and they already seem more balanced in their win over the Packers. Rivers went 21-28 for 294 yards, and Melvin Gordon rushed 20 times for 80 yards. That's an awful lot of rushing going on there. In the meantime, the Raiders 4-4, 5-3 against the spread. They actually ranked second in yards per carry for the last 3 games. Trent Brown's questionable. The Raiders 6-1 against the spread in the last 7. Duffman, what do you have on this one?
Ken Wisenhunt used to live in my neighborhood, in fact. And I think the reason that you call this a match is because it was announced, who knows, maybe the Chargers will wind up playing on the pitch in London as the permanent home.
That is correct. You beat me to it. That was going to be a talking point. But before we get to your pick, let's talk about it. I mean, they're not happy, apparently, with this $4.2 billion stadium being built in Los Angeles. They don't want to share with the Rams. They're having trouble getting fans behind them. As a former resident of Los Angeles, I can tell you that LA residents are somewhat picky about their teams. And, I mean, the Rams were an LA team, and now they've come back. So there's kind of that feel-good factor. I mean, the Chargers were, as Chip Chirimbus likes to call them, the San Diego Chargers, right?
Yes, and at one time, remember, the Raiders were Los Angeles.
I do remember.
Yes, it's tough to get a loyal fan base when you keep mixing teams in and out. Sometimes LA had no teams for a long time. Then they had one team. Then they had 2 teams and 1 team. I mean, it's tough to keep track of which teams are and are not playing in Los Angeles. Look, it's a possibility. There's a lot of travel things to consider. I guess anytime a team that would play in London would probably have to have an off week next week. But it's all about getting money internationally, whether it's China and the NBA, and that's a whole nother story altogether. And I always said just the opposite. I wish that we would have a U.S.-based team in like the EPL, but that's another story altogether. Yeah, it is a possibility of that happening, and I think the NFL, if it's practical, would love to have it happen because it opens up the entire Great Britain. It opens up England to all the NFL. Maybe the ratings will be higher. They can get more revenue, TV there, and of course they want to sell all their paraphernalia over there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, as far as an American team in the Premier League, the problem that you would have with that, of course, is promotion and relegation. So that team would have to work their way to the Premier League or would get relegated from it. So, and I don't know if there's an American team that's remotely good enough to play even in the 2nd division in England. So that we might have to wait on, but we'll see what happens. Where would they play? I don't know. They'd have to, lease Wembley or they'd have to borrow Tottenham Stadium. I don't know how that would work. No one's building stadiums in central London anymore, I can promise you that. But let's get back to it. Let's get to this game. Chargers at Raiders. What have you for this one, Duffer?
Well, we have a very rare situation here. The Chargers, like I said, it does get confusing, these LA teams. The Chargers are off of consecutive wins as an underdog, and now they're a road favorite. That's a very rare circumstance, but teams like that in the history of my database, which goes back to 1983, a go against of 15-1. In fact, the underdog would be 11-5 straight up. So that would say to go with the Raiders. Now, that being said, the line is covering right around the pick. The Chargers are -1, but yeah, when a team is off of consecutive wins as a road underdog, they usually do, as underdogs, they usually do have a letdown here. Not surprisingly, the underdog is 6-3 in the Chargers games. I've always said I've never been a Phillip Rivers fan, but he's a guy that I like to attach my term to. Predictably unpredictable. He'll go on a 3-4 game stretch where he looks like a Hall of Famer, and then he'll go on a stretch where he looks like he should be a backup. So it's no surprise the underdog has done very well in their games. Now, the superior team in a short week has always been a great play unless they've had substantially more snaps the previous week, which is not the case. That would be 80-32. The Chargers are in a short week superior team situation. Fading bad defenses off of a win is 140, 85-4. That would also favor the Chargers. Look, the Raiders is key. They get Eric Harris. He is probable. He was ill last week. He played every down. I know California University of Pennsylvania is best known for producing great handicappers, but they produce very tough football players. He did miss practice on Monday, but it looks like he's going to play for them. Still, all in all, a little bit of a tough game as far as the side's concerned. I'm going to have a pretty big play on the total picks and parlays.net, but I think the Chargers are the good play. Simply put, if you go with the superior team in a short week, you're usually going to do quite well.
All right, there you have it. Chargers and Raiders. Let's move along. Bills at Browns. The Bills 6-2, 5-3 against the spread, coming off a 24-9 win over the Redskins. It's the Bills' best start in 26 years, which is saying quite something. The Browns 2-6, 2-6 against the spread. They lost on Sunday to the Broncos. It's their fourth straight loss. This team seems to have lost the plot. Cleveland is 9-23 against the spread in their last 32 games at home. That's a pretty big number to get your arms around. Browns on this one, -2, total 41.5. All right, Duff, man.
Am I a big believer in the Bills? Well, obviously not. I did have 2 weeks ago my interconference game of the year on Philadelphia against Buffalo, and this is a case where we use the odds makers' knowledge against them. Another kind of rare situation when a team is favored despite having at least four fewer wins than their opponent, and they're not getting, well, I should say not necessarily favored, but they're not getting at least 2.5 points. They're 58-23 against the spread. That would favor the Browns. Again, if you knew nothing about these teams, if you simply looked at the records and you made a line, there's no way you would say that Cleveland would be a 2.5 point favorite. But again, use your knowledge, use the odds makers' knowledge against them. We have an anti-splits angle, same thing, that says fade road teams who are better on the road than the home team has been at home. That's 140, 101, and 10. There's no question Cleveland's underachieved this year, but they do get a boost. Kareem Hunt, that 8-game suspension, he is going to be in uniform for the Browns. Forget about what you think of him as a person and whether or not any NFL team should have signed him. He is a very dangerous weapon, and I also like the whole psychological thing where the Browns, they need a little kick in the shorts. I do think that Hunt is a guy who can give them a great lift. Nobody can question this guy's talent. Also, the Bills are a trendy dog. It's a rare case where the public is betting on the underdog. 80% of the bets are on Buffalo. Usually you like to bet against those trendy dogs. I do think Cleveland is going to pull off the win here, where people that aren't aware of the point spread, they might think it's an upset, but it's not. Cleveland is going to win this game by at least 5 points.
At least 5 points, yeah. It's also, we talk about momentum, and we can argue about it as NFL is not a big momentum sport. I believe you said that. But,
yes. No. It's a big regression to the mean sport.
Yeah, that sounds painful, whatever that is. But I will say this: when you lost 4 in a row against a team that's overachieving, having your best start in 26. Look, having your best start in 26 years has to provide some momentum. We're not talking about a season or where you're on a 3-game winning streak, but having your best start essentially in modern franchise history, I think says a lot. And I think you're right. And there has to be a value in that. You and I can argue how mean your aggression is all you want. But I'm going to say that there may be Mo signed on the bench here for the Bills. All right, Lions at Bears. This is an NFC North showdown. The Lions, 3-4-1, 4-4 against the spread, coming off a 31-24 loss to the Raiders. They couldn't convert. First and goal with a minute left. Come on. Oh, terrible stuff. The Bears, 3-5, 2-6 against the spread. The Bears lost 22-14 to the Eagles. That's 4 in a row. I'll learn to speak somewhere along the way here. That's 4 in a row they've lost. The Bears are... Chicago are 8-1 against the spread in its last 9 versus an NFC North opponent. The Bears -3, total 42.5. How does that look to you, Duffer?
And speaking of the total St. Nicholas, this is at least the early weather indicates this could be the windiest game. 16-mile-per-hour winds are expected. So I'm not the ultimate expert on predicting which way a line is going, but I think you could have a decent middle opportunity when it comes to the total. You bet the under now. If the weather forecast is accurate, and even if the winds pick up a little bit, the total could drop, and you might be able to, like I said, get a little bit of a middle there, because the sports books don't seem to adjust to the early week weather that much. So keep an eye on that. This total could definitely drop simply based on the weather forecast. Have a nice little revenge angle, and it doesn't have to be same season revenge. It could be a previous season revenge that's based on each team coming off of a very bad effort the previous week. The team in revenge is very good, 68-28. That would benefit Detroit. An angle that admittedly in recent years has tailed off a little bit, but consecutive road games, and if you're off of a loss, the road team is off of a loss, they're a good play. 327, 237, 11. That would favor Detroit. This is one of those games, you know, Nick, I hear that you went to UCLA, and they had a pretty famous basketball coach many years ago by the name of John Wooden.
Yes,
and I remember
indeed.
John Wooden. Yeah, you heard of him?
Yes, absolutely. Legend.
Yes. I always liked his philosophy. When he was interviewed, I loved how he said he felt he prepared for other teams less than most coaches. He wasn't so worried about exploiting another team's weakness as he was going with his own team's strength. And I think that's kind of a big dilemma that Nagy is going to have for the Bears this week. Detroit's very vulnerable against the pass, but Chicago, Mitch Trubisky can't really throw the ball all that well. However, I think you got to think bigger picture. Nagy knows for Chicago to become relevant that obviously, you know, Trubisky has to show he can throw the ball. So I do think, especially when you look at the big picture, Chicago's probably going to be putting the ball in the air a little bit, but especially if there's some wind there, I don't have a lot of confidence in his ability to do that. I do think Detroit's defense will actually have a very good game because they're not going against a good quarterback. It does worry me. Detroit is yet another trendy dog. We don't have too many trendy dogs, but back-to-back trendy dogs in games I covered. But still, all in all, I do like the points here with Detroit.
You like the points with Detroit, and the points are, what do we have? What was the total?
+3.
Plus, yeah,
We're
plus
gonna get,
3. Yeah, so the minus. So that was the right line then. I got these a little early today, so looking to see them. They did not move, which is interesting.
And it's one of those that, you know, does vary, and especially with the win, if the total does drop, it could drop below 3. So I think it's more likely to go below 3 than above 3. Although, you know, and especially, as I said, it's very rare when the public is betting the underdog early. So I think it could go off of 3 quite easily, and you might want to get on Detroit now.
All right. Duffman, Joe Duffy, thank you so much. Of course, you can find loads of Joe's picks at picksandparlays.net, as well as his expert picks if you really want to get your sports betting on the right side of profitable. I don't know what else to say. Go to picksandparlays.net. You'll find Joe there, along with all of the other great cappers we've had on the show today. Up next, a recap of today's picks. Joe, thanks a lot. We'll chat to you later on in the week. Be right back after this.
with your insurance provider to help cover the costs. Plus, we have travel assistance programs to get you here by plane or train. Make this free call right now to learn more.
800-403-5912. 800-403-5912. 800-403-5912. That's 800-403-5912.
All right, welcome back to Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network. We're also streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm your host, Nick Geber. Find me on Twitter. Unsurprisingly, it's at Nick Geber. You know, I try to keep it simple for you. Would love if you'd give me a follow. I put a lot of picks up there. A lot of soccer picks, too. If you didn't, sorry about that if you don't follow the great, beautiful game, but if you do, you'll be a happy person indeed. Okay, we had a lot of picks today from our great cappers, Tony Brown, Tony Tellez, and Joe Duffy. Let's recap what they gave us. Let's start with the capper formerly known as Bandwagon, Tony Brown. His picks. Bucks at Clippers. Take the Clippers -1.5. The Sixers at the Jazz. Take the Sixers +2.5. And for college basketball, Cincinnati at Ohio State. Take Ohio State -6. LT Gray joined us next. Tony Tellez. Here were his college football picks. Penn State at Minnesota. Take Minnesota Golden Gophers +7. That always reminds me of Caddyshack when I hear that. LSU at Alabama. Take the LSU Tigers +6. And Iowa at Wisconsin. Take Iowa +9.5. And we capped it all off with the Duff man himself, Joe Duffy, doing some NFL. Chargers at Raiders. Take the Chargers -1. Lions at Bears. Take the Lions +3. And the Bills at Browns. Take the Browns -3. There were our picks from our cappers. If you missed any of them, be sure to check out our website, picksandparlays.net. You'll find all of those free picks there for you. If you've missed any part of this show, don't worry. You can always find it on our YouTube channel. And when you go there, remember to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications for every time we post a new video. That's at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/picksparlays. All right, that's going to wrap the show up for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Want to thank Tony, and Joe for coming on. Want to thank you for watching and listening. And a reminder to join me tomorrow, that's Wednesday the 6th, for more Picks and Parlays, more free picks right here. In the meantime, go visit us at picksandparlays.net. Till tomorrow, have a great night and enjoy the college basketball.
USA Radio News with Tim Berg.
The Democratic-led House Intelligence Committee is continuing the process of releasing some of the transcripts of the closed-door impeachment hearings. Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio joins Fox News to discuss.
One thing happened in that 6-week time frame. Namely, we learned Adam Schiff's staff had met with the whistleblower. Once that fact came out, suddenly changed their story. But the idea that we're going to impeach a president less than 12 months before the next election, based on an anonymous whistleblower with no firsthand knowledge who has a bias against the president, who worked with Joe Biden, is ridiculous.
The FBI is offering to help Mexican officials investigate the murders of at least 9 Americans in Sonora. 3 women and 6 children were shot and buried alive after their car was ambushed on Monday. The victims had dual U.S. and Mexico citizenship and were part of a fundamentalist Mormon family. And you're listening to USA Radio News.
An official message from Medicare.
It's open enrollment, Fred. Time to compare plans.
Oh, Alice, we're fine with what we have.
Well, that's what the Johnsons thought until they tried Medicare's new Plan Finder.
The Johnsons, huh?
We saved on our prescription costs.
And got extra benefits. Come on, Fred. Maybe we'll find something better.
Plans change every year. Use the new Plan Finder at Medicare.gov to compare health and drug plans. Open enrollment ends December 7th.
What do you know? Comparing plans really pays.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go. And
Hey, Craig.
What's up?
Well, the first couple segments opening audio was a little rough, but we got it worked.
Yeah.
Tony Brown just didn't decide he wasn't going to put on a microphone. How about that one?
Fuck. I was telling Tyler, I was like, Tyler, he doesn't have a microphone on. I was like, mic not on for Tony, mic not on. I couldn't get it typed in fast enough.
Yeah, no, we figured it out pretty quick. And then, this is Robbie's first solo effort. But he did okay after the couple of segment intros, audio mishaps. But he's got it figured. He'll be fine tomorrow.
Is Allie there?
She is.
We're gonna have to switch up the games because only two of the ones I gave had lines. Unfortunately, there's only 5 games, but since
Allie,
2 of those we're not going to be able to use.
Okay.
We're not going to be able to use those anyway because one, the mic didn't work, and the other one, it doesn't make any sense because I only have 5 games, so there's no use doing them twice.
Well, do you want to do this today, or you want to do it tomorrow?
Yeah, no, we have to do it today because tomorrow there's only like 2 or 3 games for what would be Thursday. So, but I'm gonna give her the games we're gonna do in the lines, and then she can just set me up, and I'll take care of it from there. Hey Nick, we still got the audio up for Byline.
Yeah, sorry, I'll get rid of it. You don't want to listen to my blue pill?
I've heard it enough.
Yeah,
I want to go buy it. I don't need it, but I might just want to buy it.
Well,
just
why
in
the hell
case.
not? Maybe you get a discount if you use the code radio.
They're like, hey, you advertise on my radio show. Do I get a discount?
Yeah, exactly. All right, Robbie, can you adjust her camera, please? Because she's, like a little person.
Allie, can you hear me? Yes. Can you hear me? I can't hear her. All right, I'm going to give you the games that we're going to do.
Hold on. Okay, you can hear her now. Yeah, no, a little lower. Here. That's better. Can you zoom in a hair on her? Not on her hair.
Allie, I love the hair.
Thank you. I just got it cut.
I like it.
I'm getting there, guys.
I did mine too. So
I can
that's every
tell.
Monday. Though.
I noticed that.
Every Monday.
He can't hear
Okay,
me.
I'm going to list you the games, and because some of these are going to change because, unfortunately, only 5 games had lines, and of course, only 2 of them I picked. All right, so we're going to do Bucks at Clippers. Clippers are -1, and a total of 228.
Okay.
Then Magic at Mavericks. Mavericks -7.5. Total 207.
Mm-hmm.
Kings at Raptors, which I think we had that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
8.5 is the Raptors favored with the 217 total. And then T-Wolves at Grizzlies. The T-Wolves are favored by 5.5. A total of 225.5. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, last game is Sixers at Jazz. Jazz -2 and 212.5. So we can go quick. Just give me odds and teams, and I'll mow through these. Let's use in the intro. Let's do a 15% off promo code.
Hold on. Okay, what are we doing?
How about wins? WINS. That's 15% off.
So this is, which one are we doing on this? This is college basketball rapid fire?
No, NBA rapid fire for
NBA.
Wednesday, November 6th.
Okay. Okay, Ali, can you sit up like how you would sit up when you actually do this? Okay, Robbie, way too much headroom for her. She needs that. You need to bring that camera down.
I need extra space for my
Go
hair.
back the other way. No, she needs to go closer to the top. More. Right there. Hold it right there. Because she leans forward when she talks anyway. Perfect. Lock that in.
I can't hear that.
All right, Ali, let me get levels on you.
Hi, I'm Allie Burns, and this is picksandparlays.net. Welcome to our NBA Rapid Fire.
You talk at the same time, please, Craig.
Wednesday,
to our
November
NBA
6th.
Rapid
Clippers
Fire,
minus
Wednesday,
1
November
on
6th.
Wednesday night.
Go, Craig.
Clippers minus 1, 4-3 against the spread on the year.
Okay, great. We're good. Good levels.
Craig, do you happen to know the records for the Bucks and Clippers?
Yeah. Said yes. I mean, I have them against the spread because that's all I really care about. 5-2 straight up, and they're both 5-2 straight up.
Okay.
How are we doing? Everyone ready?
Just what's the win-loss for Sixers Jazz?
Sixers. Sorry.
It's on my notes here.
5-1 and 4-3. 5-1 for the Sixers, 4-3 for the Jazz.
Cool. I'm just gonna fire through. I watched the last tape, so like I kind of see what to do. Is just to fire through and not add too much.
Otherwise we don't have enough
What
time.
else? What else?
Yeah,
what
no.
else are you doing? Bucks or Clippers?
I just need Magic Mavs.
Bucks or Clippers?
I
don't
got
have
them.
Magic,
I
Mavs.
didn't do that today.
Magic are 2-4 and Dallas is 4-2.
4-2, and that's win-loss, not against the spread, right?
Those are just win-loss records.
Okay, perfect. Clippers 5-2.
All right, we're ready?
Whew.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay, hold on. Let me just do this again here. Okay, static logo, boom. All right, I'm going to talk back to you. You guys will hear me, but I will not come out on the. I am coming out on the recording. That's not right. Oh, because I'm that. Okay, you can hear me, Craig, right? Nod yes. Okay, I'm not coming out on the recording, so this is. I'm now talking back to you. Okay, so we're going to go here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, it's me, Allie Burns again. Welcome. Thanks for joining us for this NBA edition of our Rapid Fire for Wednesday, November the 6th. Before we get to that, let me tell you about our promo code. Use the code WINS, W-I-N-S, at checkout to save yourself 15%. All right, without further ado, I have my resident handicapper here, Craig Trapp. How you doing, Craig?
Excited. Last week our rapid fire, not so good, so I need a little payback this week.
I didn't want to mention things. I didn't want to bring up old stuff, but here's for hoping, right? Let's get fired away. We're going to start out with a hot one. It's the Bucks and the Clippers. Bucks are 5-2. Clippers are also 5-2. Clippers are a small favorite, -1, and the total is at 228. What do you think about this matchup?
Well, I think the Clippers are the best team in the NBA, and so just having to lay -1, I think it's a pretty good play here. Of course, the Clippers are just 4-3 against the spread, but a lot of that's because they're laying some big numbers. Have been good at home, though, 3-1 against the spread. I'm going to take the Clippers here, -1. I think Kawhi Leonard continues to show why I think he's the best player in the league, and I think he has a really big game and a big win against the best team in the Eastern Conference.
All right, there you have it. Take the Clippers -1. It's a good bet. Up next, we're going to do the Magic and the Mavs. This is a little bit offset. Orlando's off to a slow start with only 2-4. But the Mavs 4-2. They're going to be at home tonight, -7.5. Totals 207. What do you think about this one?
Like you said, the Magic have not been very good, just 1-4 against the spread. A big number to lay here with the Dallas Mavericks, just -7.5. But I don't think you really have much of a choice here. I think just Dallas with Luka Doncic is just that much a better team, and I think Dallas gets it done. Lay the big number with the Dallas Mavericks here on Wednesday night.
All right. You heard it here first. Craig Trapp says lay the 7.5 points with the Dallas Mavericks. Up next, last time we talked, Craig, the Kings hadn't won a game yet. Well, now they've won 2, but they're cruising into the defending champion Toronto Raptors house. They're 4-2. The total is 217, and the Raptors are favored by 8.5. What do you think about this one?
Well, last year, Toronto was very good at home. They've continued that streak this year. They're 4-2 against the spread overall, but 3-0 against the spread at home. I think that continues tonight. It's a big number here, but the Sacramento Kings team, they just don't play any defense. I just think the Raptors are the much better defensive team. I think they show that and stay undefeated at home against the spread. Let's take the Toronto Raptors -8.5 here.
All right, Toronto Raptors -8.5. They are coming off their first loss in the last 4 games, so I totally expect them to come back and give the home crowd something to cheer for. Up next, we've got the T-Wolves and the Grizzlies. Now, I love the Grizzlies. This whole game is kind of a college basketball fan's dream because you got a lot of the big stars in it. But the Grizzlies at 1-5 have not been looking good. Minnesota's a 5.5 point favorite, and the total sits at 225.5 points. Your thoughts?
Well, a few years ago, I thought Timberwolves maybe were turning the corner to be maybe one of the better up-and-coming teams. Has not happened. I can't lay 5.5 with the Timberwolves team. I think you have to look to the total here. I think it's going to be up and down game. Neither team really plays a whole lot of defense. I think it will be an exciting game to watch. Like you said, I think a lot of young players that like to get it to the hoop and like to get out in the open floor. Let's take the over 225.5, a big over number for a reason. Both of these teams put up big numbers tonight.
Okay, over 225 in the Grizzlies contest. Last one for you, the 76ers and the Utah Jazz. The Sixers are 5-1. They're on the tip of everyone's tongues. They're a huge public favorite. The Jazz are 4-2, and they are the favorite with -2 points. The total is 212.5. What do you think about this one?
Wrong team favorite here. Philadelphia, of course, lost their first game at Phoenix last time out. But remember, Embiid was not playing. I think he'll be back on this one. The Sixers +2, +1.5. I even see that. No matter what, I think the Sixers went outright. I'm going to take it on the money line. But if you want to be safe, take the points. I think it's going to be a really exciting, fun game. But I just think Philadelphia is clearly the better team at this point of the season. Let's take the Philadelphia 76ers here.
All right, Philadelphia 76ers +2 points. We're about to wrap everything up for you, but before I let you go, don't forget about that promo code WINS, W-I-N-S, to save yourself 15% at checkout. And if you'd like what you saw here, check out our podcast. It's on picksandparlays.net. Just find that media button, and on the drop-down screen, you'll find podcasts. Till we see you next time, guys, have a great one. Picks and Parlays, bet, win, repeat.
That was good.
All right.
You okay with that, Craig?
That was good. Can you send that to me and Tyler? And I'm headed out. I'm going to a basketball game.
You're doing that. Who said you could do that?
What basketball
Be
game?
good. Yep. Take it easy, guys.
All right, buddy. I'm sending it.
Bye.
I'm loading it right now.
Great job, Allie.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Send me your Venmo info.
Okay. Is there any way you could write me a check?
I don't have checks. I have to have it sent to you. Or I have to have it ACH into your account. Just give me your account information. I can do that.
Well, how fast is my rent's just due today, so I'm trying to get
8
it
hours.
to Venmo.
Well, I can Venmo like tonight, but I could, if I ACH it, it could probably be in the account by, what are we, Monday, Tuesday, by Wednesday night.
Now, whatever is the fastest is what I need.
Give me your account number.
Okay, at Venmo.
No, your bank account number, routing number, and checking account number.
I don't know all of that.
Do you have a check?
No. I have I go through a check cashing thing because I don't like banks.
So you don't have a bank?
I do kind of.
I can pay Venmo or I can ACH to your bank.
Which one is the fastest?
They're probably, by the time, to ACH to your bank's going to be faster. Because you're then going to have to move from Venmo to your bank, unless you have a Venmo credit card. Do you have a Venmo credit
No,
card?
I don't.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so when I get home, I
Just
can.
send me the copy of it, just text me a picture of a check.
Well, I don't have checks.
That's fine, you just need a routing number and checking account number.
Okay, that I do have.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Okay. Okay, cool. And then when do you need me back again?
I don't know, probably not till Andrew gets back, in fairness, because Robbie's just learning this, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I'll check with Craig. I'd have you back this week if Andrew were here, but